Hello everyone, and welcome to another iClone 7 Academy tutorial. Today's topic will be project conversion. Now we all have projects from previous legacy versions of iClone that we want to bring into iClone 7 to take advantage of the brand new rendering system. So let's go ahead and convert this scene, and I'll show you things to watch out for as you convert things. Alright, so the first thing you're going to notice here is when you start off actually from a default project scene, you are already in what is called PBR mode. However, as soon as you bring content from a previous version of iClone, and by the way, I don't know if you're familiar or not, but if you click on the package tab and go to custom, you can actually have access to all the stuff that you have in iClone 6 in here. So I'm going to go to my default project folder and open this scene over here again so you can see what you get. Now notice it says some visual effects such as HDR, ambient occlusion, shadows, and IBL may be different from iClone 6. Please adjust the relevant parameters. And yes, you will have to adjust them, otherwise it's going to look very off. Now, if you want more information, then it will take you over to this web page where it shows you what's new in iClone 7 and why it looks different. So let's go ahead and say OK. And there are a few things that you want to check out. See, as soon as I loaded this project A, the mode went straight to traditional when you loading a legacy project. And what happens is, if you look at an iClone 6 over here, look, the scene looks pretty much the same for both. So it's trying to keep the scene as close as possible as iClone 6. So it's doing a pretty good job for iClone 7. However, the whole point of this is to make it better, not just the same, right? So let's go ahead and turn this to PBR mode. However, before we do this, I want to show you something that you may or may not be aware of. Sometimes what happens is when you bring in a legacy object into a scene and a brand new scene from iClone 7, you'll be able to actually convert the material straight up by going into the materials tab and then going to shader type and switch it. However, when you bring a project, all of a sudden you may notice that this function is ghosted out. This is because you are in traditional mode when you bring in that scene. In order for that to work, you need to make it into a PBR mode. See, now the ghosting is off, so now you can convert that model back to PBR if you want to. However, what is best to do here is to convert your entire scene into a true PBR environment, and to do so you do it by clicking here on the PBR Setup. This will do several things. One, it will turn your ambient color to pure black. Notice that by default in iClone 6, your ambient light is this bluish gray color. Actually, if you go to a true default scene here, so let's go to scenes and go to wide and go back to visuals, you will see this is your default color right here. It's a grayish blue color, and the IBL that you get is actually this JPEG image. It's not an HDR image. So it's very important, because in PBR you really need to use HDR images for your image-based lighting if you want to get the best results out of iClone 7. So when you do a PBR setup, not only will it change the ambient color, it will change the default IBL. And so it will change whatever had in here into the default IBL, and it will convert all the shaders for you. So let's go click on apply and say yes. We don't have any animations on the other stuff. So as you can see here, this looks quite different here, right? So let's see why. Well, the first thing you notice is we went from an IBL that was supposed to represent daytime into an HDR image that it actually represents an interior. So to fix this, we should go ahead and change something that represents more of the daytime. So let's do that. I'm going to bring in this HDR image here, which is a really nice daytime where you're just standing on a cliff looking at the sea. And I will show you this in a second. The next thing you want to look at is over here, it changed the ambient color to black. Now the ambient occlusion is gonna be off simply because it's set up. The initial setup was for the old ambient occlusion. This is horizon-based ambient occlusion plus. So we need to tweak this. And let me go ahead and just delete the image layer here because it's just getting in the way. We don't need that. Okay, great. So let's do that. And now let's go ahead and play a little bit with the parameters here so we can get the best possible ambient occlusion here. So we play a little bit with the range, a little bit with the bias, and just so we get some good context shadows here. Okay, and maybe just rotate the scene a little bit like this. Alright, so that's good. Alright, so we have good ambient occlusion going on here. That's pretty good. Now, let's go ahead, turn that tab off. We have fog over here a little bit. Actually, we don't need it for this particular scene for now, so we're going to turn that off. Next, in HDR settings, you will notice that you only have the HDR effect on. However, you do not have tone mapping on. So, and this is important. This is how you're going to get the best possible results, is with the tone mapping and properly setting up the exposure. Next is going to have some blooming or glare. And usually I turn this off until I actually really do need one of those things. Otherwise, you know, just keep it off. So, and we'll come back to the HDR later on. Next, we're going to go ahead and let's go ahead and take the lights down here, the HDR lights, turn them off for now, so we can see the effect of the IBL. So let's go ahead and bring this up a little bit. Alright, that looks good. And I'm going to scale the floor down by selecting the floor and pressing R. So let's make sure that we have the floor here selected. Alright, and now I'm going to press the R key and scale this down a bit. And I want to see what's going on in my background, so I'm going to go ahead and under Sync Sky, I'm going to turn the orientation on and the image on. So this is our IBL right here. You can see the little walkway that we're standing on when they took this HDR image. And okay, so let's go back in here. And there we go. Okay, so we're pretty close to the geometry. So I'm going to go ahead and move the center of this plane a little bit more to where we're going to be looking at, right there. Like so, that's pretty good. And again, this is not about shaders. This project is basically about conversion. So we are pretty much done as far as the conversion. You just need to do a few tweaks here and there to actually make this look good. And this is what we're doing right here. So just doing some minor tweaks. You know, here the geometry is crashing into the ground plane. Here our ground plane materials. Notice when you convert from traditional to PBR, the specular and reflections turn into metallic and roughness. Now, if you want to learn more about shader conversion, there's a tutorial out there, so check the link below. So right now we want to make this floor actually this wooden floor, which is hard to tell is wood because it's tiled so many times. So I'm going to just lock the ratio and all the channels and just put the UVs to 1 so we can see actually what the floor is all about. So it's just about this wooden floor, and this really doesn't make sense for this kind of environment. I was thinking maybe we can make it look more like a terrace. So let's go ahead and go to our content library, and inside material substance, one of the default substances here is this really cool tile. So let's drag this in here instead. Look at that. That's much prettier, right? So we have our scene here, we have our terrace. Now we need to place our IBL where we want it. So let's go ahead and press Shift I to bring up the widget. And now we are going to illuminate this so that we have a little bit of that walkway in there. We can see a little bit of that walkway, but at the same time we can see the sea out there. So we're like standing on this beautiful terrace. Now the next thing we're going to do, let's go ahead and bring in our key light again, turn it on. One thing to watch out also is shadows. Now notice here the shadows are almost non-existent, and they are there. So one thing is, A, the strength is really low when it came in with the scene. 2, the resolution was pretty low when it came in the scene. 3, also the quality is set pretty low to, it's more for performance than quality. And this, you can bring it a little bit more towards the near than the far, because that's you get the best quality with cascade shadows. Now, alright, so let's press Shift I again to get the widget out of there, and press the / key, so we have the key coming from the same place as the sun comes in, right? One thing we got to do also is darken our shadows in here as well, because right now the shadows are pretty weak, and if you notice here in our scene, the shadows here are pretty dark. So we're trying to match those shadows to these shadows over here. Okay, so that looks pretty good already, and we barely have done anything to the surfaces here. Now, if we want to make the stone look more like stone, one thing you got to do is, the basic rules. Is it metal or is it not, right? If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out the webinar on PBR. I explained that pretty well, and also on shader conversion as well. So we want to bring the roughness all the way up here, because it's stone. There's nothing shiny about the stone here. So let's go ahead and double right click here very quickly. Now we're going to just breeze through this, because it's not about the shaders. This is just about enhancing a previous scene. Next, see, right there, it looks so much better already. Next, we have this ball over here, which is supposed to be a nice chrome shiny ball. So, is it metal or is it not? Yes, it's definitely metal. So let's double right click real quick, brightness up. And is it shiny? Oh yes, it's shiny. So let's take the roughness down. Okay, so we have a little bit of that. Now, you will notice sometimes these things are tweaked in order to fake out certain things inside iClone 6. However, it is always best to bring the parameters usually all the way up to the top for diffuse color, and not tint it, because otherwise you will get a multiplier here that will add color if you have something like this, for example. See? So this becoming more like a Christmas sphere than an ornament than an actual chrome ball. So that's something definitely to look out for. Alright, so we have our nice chrome shiny ball here. And one thing we want to do is we want to make sure that our hotspot from the sun on the HDR image is matching our hotspot from the actual directional light. So, and it is right now. So it's looking pretty good. If you look at over here, they're overlapping each other. So that's what you want. So you're matching the directionality, and this already is looking pretty darn good. So that looks good. You can make it as shiny as this. Is again a choice of what you like and how you imagine a chrome ball. This is supposed to be marble, so let's go ahead and tweak the materials a little bit. Now it is not metal, but I do want this to be shiny, so let's take this, make it darker. Like so, not completely dark. We want to have some hot spot there. Now notice here that they added a glow. Now this is not needed in here, so we're taking that off. And let's keep on working. Let's keep on playing here with the roughness here, so we have some nice reflectivity going on there. All right. Now what we're going to do is add a little bit of GI. So I'm going to turn GI on. See, that already makes it look much better. And we are going to crank up a little bit the bounce. Now notice as I increase the bounce here, you get a nice translucency effect here, because the plants don't really have translucency. But you can fake it out by adding a little bit of bounce in there into your scene. So that's a quick Stuck on 3D tip right there. So next, let's go and play a little bit with the GI parameters. Now, if you don't know about GI parameters, there's a tutorial for that, so check the link below. We could definitely want the multi-bounce to be cranked up because we want more energy to go in there and becomes the scene, makes the scene more colorful. We add a little bit of specular bounce as well in there, and so this looks pretty good to me. Let's maybe tweak down the color again. This is not about the shaders. This is just about the conversion itself and from project to from one iClone to the other. So we can improve here the glass definitely. As you can see here, the glass already comes with a weird opacity because this would be a reflection map more than an opacity. So again, there's some things that are done for iClone 6 that are definitely not going to look correct in iClone 7. So things you gotta watch out for. Now, see here, you know, it looks like a very reflective glass, and the transparency is kind of odd. But again, this it's just a choice, an artistic choice. So we should definitely not have this on. But when you turn this out, when actually take this off, look what happens. It just becomes very uniform, right? So you definitely need more reflection in there to make it look better. And the roughness, definitely we want this glass to be shiny. So let's go ahead and take that down and make it shiny. And now, since we don't have an opacity map, we actually need to play with the opacity. So let's take the opacity down, like so. See, that's already looking more like glass. Usually dark, you want to keep the diffuse color dark for glass. Glass and mirrors, both. And if you see the blockiness of this, you can always add a little bit of smoothing, real-time smoothing in there. So that's already looking a little bit better. Definitely does not need self-illumination. This glass does not require self-illumination. And now you can play a little bit with the reflection, so it becomes nice and reflective. You can do this with transparent colors, with things that have opacity. It does not really work. Reflection does not work with things that do not have opacity on them. So sometimes, and this is another quick tip here, for example on this sphere, if you want a little extra reflection in there, just turn this 100 to 99, and now you can turn on reflection, and you can add a little extra reflection onto that marble to make it super shiny. So pretty cool tip right there. Alright, let's go back in here. Definitely, let's bring the opacity so it looks like glass. There we go, like so. You gotta make sure you don't go too far in the opacity, otherwise you start losing some of the shading. Okay, so as you can see here, we started off with something that looked quite ugly when we converted the scene from traditional to PBR, and now it's looking pretty awesome already. And you know, kind of photorealistic. So if you keep tweaking, you know, you can definitely get, you know, some results kind of like this guy's over here. So I'm going to show you something that I already have done, and just bring it in real quick. So here's my daytime scene, my exterior, similar to this one over here, but I spent a little bit more time on it, so looks pretty nice, right? A nice sunshiny day by the coast. I could really hear the waves of the sea crashing and a little breeze over there. Look at the plants moving slightly. Pretty nice, right? Or if you prefer, you can go for an interior scene like this one over here. So this one has the default IBL that comes when you create a brand new scene. And all I did was actually adjust a little bit our directional light over here. So just the values are almost the same. However, notice the nice translucency effect I have here on the plants. As I mentioned before, you can get a really nice feel of the light going through the plant if you actually have the key coming a little bit from behind. Notice how the more I'm behind the plant, the more it starts to glow. So you got a nice effect there. And just tweaking here the GI values. Just make sure that your shadow detail is not too high, otherwise this starts to make them dim again. And so keep it kind of low. And then your voxel cones don't go too high either, because again, this will increase the directionality of your GI rays, and then the scattering effect kind of gets lost. So if you keep a value between, you know, something like 16 for the cones, see how much better and how much more translucent it feels. And if you go to 8, it can be even better. So you know, it's up to you what's more important when you what are you trying to accentuate here. But I just wanted to show you that, you know, this is something that is something very, very cool that you could use, you know, to make your plants more realistic that way as well. So just a little heads up and a little quick tip right there. Okay, so last but not least here, let me just do one last touch over here, because it's a little blown out right there. And I'm going to show you a little quick animation I did here using some physics, and I threw in the Raptoid with its motions, and we'll conclude this tutorial. I'm going to let it rip. Check it out. Kind of fun. He bumped his head, he's angry, he's yelling at the cube, and the end. Well, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I will catch you in the next one. Take care.